Welcome back to the Wine and Dime Pod, the podcast where we drink wine and talk hoops. This is Chris and Lyndsay. We are here, a little bit of a surprise drop, kind of an emergency pod. Some crazy shit's going down in the basketball world. The WNBA's had a billion moves go on. There's a crazy trade web of madness happening right now. And the reason we really kicked this one off is because maybe an NBA GM done lost his damn mind in the middle of the night.
Yeah, we're joining the emergency podcast economy because Luka Dončić is now a Laker.
It's the most Lakersy shit possible when they seem to be trapped, capped out, not really much of a future beyond a couple of years from now. And then a team literally calls them and is like, "Hey, do y'all want Luka Dončić? Would you like a 25-year-old perennial MVP candidate?" And they're like, "Rob Pelinka asked him, are you joking?
Me? Me? You want me?
Are you joking?"
Yeah,
He was not joking.
No. So, yeah, still kind of stunned. This has been living rent-free in my head since it happened. It was weird because obviously I'm on Mountain Time, so it was not midnight for me. But I was, I think I was watching a movie with my partner, and I just kind of looked at my phone. I'd been ignoring it for a little while, checked it, and I just had a Bleacher Report notification, like Luka traded to the Lakers, and I was like, this is fake. Did Shams get hacked? This is fake. Is it April? What's happening? And no, it's not fake. Nico Harrison did some stuff. I don't know. You would know. No one would ever. I guess we should just start with the details of the trade, which I have here. So it was a 3-team trade. The Utah Jazz got their little fingers in there. So
Of course, Danny Ainge's got to be involved.
It has to. Well, they have all the picks at this. Well, Oklahoma has most of the picks, but anyway, we digress. The Lakers get Luka Dončić, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris. Dallas gets Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 Los Angeles Lakers first. And Utah receives Jalen Hood-Schifino, a 2025 Clippers second, and a 2025 Mavericks second.
Utah really came away as the winners of this trade. I think it's cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Jalen Hood-Schifino, they pried him out of LA's hands.
2 seconds. Wow. That's
After they
almost
wouldn't give him up for, they weren't going to give him up for Kyle Lowry and some other people back in the day. Anyway, or no, sorry, it wasn't him that they wouldn't give up for. Actually, it's funny. I think the Utah Jazz have the other player that the Lakers wouldn't give up for somebody forever.
Horton Tucker?
Yeah, Horton Tucker. He's the one they wouldn't give up for Lowry, and now they have Hood-Schifino. That's hilarious. Apparently, LA only wants to trade those players to Utah. But anyways. So, I guess, I think everyone's reaction to this is kind of the same on the face of it. You traded a generational superstar, and you got a pick and Anthony Davis, and Max Christie, I guess, is filler. He's a good young player, but I mean...
He had a good game yesterday.
He's a good young player. He's been really good for the Lakers, and he's a good, building block. But you can put him next to Kyrie, and he'll be fine, right? But I just... you couldn't get more? I guess that's what happened. I guess the thing for me is, there's been a lot of reasons floating around why they traded Luka, and we can talk about that in a minute. But I think my biggest, reaction to that, obviously, was, that's it. And also, when you realize that it was a closed market, why?
Yeah, in a world where every trade seems to have 5 first-round picks involved, where Rudy Gobert goes for 4 firsts, Donovan Mitchell goes for almost a damn 7 at one point.
Michael Bridges went for 5. Right?
Yeah, Mikal went for 5, I think, total. One was conditional maybe, but yeah, Mikal went for hella picks.
For a pick swap or something,
You expect to get a little bit more. But, Anthony Davis is obviously great, but he plays 50 games a year.
And I guess what I'm... Yeah, and I guess it's not like Luka requested the trade. So I guess what's confusing to me is, truly there's maybe 5 players in the NBA that I would say are completely untouchable, and we thought Luka was one of them. But if you called, if I don't, just the closed market thing is so confusing to me, because it's if you called Minnesota, they would consider giving up Anthony Edwards. They might say no to you, but they would think about it. You call Boston, they'd probably give up Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, I would.
They'd probably give up Tatum, and you could keep one of the two. One of the Jays, they'd give him up. You called Bucks, the Bucks might say no for giving up Giannis, but they'd think about it for a second.
They give you Lillard.
Yeah, but they would at least think about it. They wouldn't hang up the phone immediately on you. They would think about it for a second. I mean, outside of maybe Jokic and a few other people, there's very few. You call the Rockets. The Rockets have a shitload of stuff that they'd give you for Luka. Picks and
all
players.
All the young players you want.
All the young players and picks. Shit, they'd give you Alperen Şengün or whoever. And I guess the other part, too, is that, yeah, getting Anthony Davis he's a great player, like you said, but only plays 50 games a year. His nickname is Ambulance Davis for a reason. And, he's really talented, but at the same time, he also kind of negates they already have a good front court. Like he can play next to Lively or Gafford, but it kind of
Or
negates like one
PJ.
of their or PJ. Well, PJ will probably well, yeah, he's gonna have to come off the bench now as a 4, but
Might have to be a 3 now.
or a 3, yeah, because they don't even really have any real wings either, so that's confusing. It's just I don't get it. I don't know. I
Yeah,
don't think it's a win now move. I don't think it's the win now move they think it is.
there was a lot of reaction when it first dropped. Oh, it must be fake, right? Because there was no
Who does
indication,
this?
and the GM confirmed this. There was no indication that Luka was be unwilling to sign
Luka
an
didn't know.
extension. There was no word from Luka that he wanted out. There was nothing from Anthony Davis that he wanted out. There was nothing from LeBron that he wanted Anthony Davis out. There was nobody who was intentionally looking to move. And you would assume that if Luka was being traded at 25 by the Dallas Mavericks, that either
He
Luka had asked
initiated it.
out or had refused to sign an extension or had, like, as some people theorized, maybe committed a whole crime. Like, none of those things happened. He was as surprised by this as anybody else. And the GM went out and put out a statement where kind of felt like you're throwing Luka under the bus after he just got the team to the
To the
damn
finals.
finals, saying, "Oh, we think that some players better cultural fits. We think that defense wins championships, and he had concerns about conditioning and all that stuff." And I'm like, you traded for a guy who's available that's all in the Luka, like for all his uh the conditioning stuff. He gets on the court when he can play. Like he dragged himself through injuries in the playoffs. Like he cares. I think clearly. I just maybe he's not always necessarily the most machine like about maintaining his body as LeBron is. But I mean, shit, he about to be on that program now. LeBron ain't letting his ass leave the gym ever.
Well, and very few players, truthfully, are the same as LeBron. You know, like even the ones who do show up in shaped training camp, like they're not in LeBron shape. They don't spend as no, almost nobody spends as much on free agency. Sorry, on their bodies as LeBron. And the other thing too is that it just feels like a cop out. Like to me, this feels more like the new ownership stared down the barrel of this supermax extension, and we're like, no. You know, like that's what it feels like. Because I know that like Mark Cuban never would have approved this trade, so this has to be something to do with new ownership. And to your point, yeah, Anthony Davis is available even less, and he doesn't have the same playoff track record as Luka, like at all.
He got a
Luka's,
ring.
I mean, yeah, but Luka, I mean, yes, but he also played with LeBron, so anyway,
It
and
helped.
the bubble was different. I don't know, I'm not saying it's a lesser championship by any means, but it was different because you also don't have to travel, and I do think that makes a difference. No travel and the fact that like everybody was relatively healthy because they'd had 6 months off, well 3 or 4 months, but regardless, they basically had an off season in the middle of the season that year. So I think that helped, especially with players since that roster was pretty old already, to be honest too. Anyway, again, not a lesser championship, but definitely different. And Anthony Davis's jump shot abandoned him after that point. It's funny because this happened right after Anthony Davis was on ESPN saying that they need to trade for a big and that he doesn't want to be a center anymore. So that's kind of funny. I just, the fact that Nico Harrison was locked in on AD is really confusing to me. Like in particular, something about that is confusing. I'm like, that's the player you wanted for Luka? Not any like disrespect to AD, because obviously good player, but it's that really? Like I could understand it in 19 when the Lakers traded for him, because he was, an MVP candidate. Like he was at the peak of his power. So like I get that, but I mean he's now on the other side of 30, has had some gnarly injuries, and has never really lived up to the expectations that he was supposed to. So it's interesting that he locked in on that player. And then on top of that, Luka didn't even know. And Luka said a lot. He wanted to stay. And when you get a superstar, like I think it's really like an Eastern European thing now, it seems. Like you get players like Jokic or Luka who are like, no, we're like, they're loyal as hell. When you get a really big superstar who's loyal to you, like you don't fuck with that.
Yeah, Denver
I
ain't that
don't,
damn cool, and Jokic has no interest in leaving there. Dallas
yeah.
ain't that exciting. Luka had no interest in leaving there. Like, you get
I
somebody
mean,
who's a top 5 player in a city that is not a free agent destination, you usually do everything you can to hold on to him. And I can't help but think that Cuban would not have that shit would not have happened under Mark Cuban. And I'm not necessarily talking about in terms of like the smartness of the trade from a basketball perspective. I just mean that in the sense that like Luka was his fucking guy. Like he bet the future of the franchise on him. He went to bat for Luka when other people were saying that, oh, guy from Europe, can he play? Blah 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 blah. He didn't play against college competition. His athleticism going to translate. Like Mark Cuban went to bat for that guy. That was his dude. Like
Mark
that trade would
Cuban,
not have happened if Mark Cuban hadn't sold off his share to the current ownership.
Mark Cuban and Donnie Nelson were like they were willing to die for Luka Dončić. I mean, Mark Cuban is quoted as saying that if I had to choose between my wife and Luka Dončić, you'd see me at my lawyer's office drafting divorce papers. Like, I mean, he's an unhinged person, but I do believe that, actually. He
No,
would never
yeah,
approve this.
I can see it. You can
It's
find
just so
another wife faster than you can find another
honestly, yeah.
Luka.
Unfortunately, it says a lot about the dating world and also, well, billionaires. I guess even just it's just so weird to me because it'd be one thing if they had perennially disappointed in the playoffs, but they made it to the finals last year. And then on top of that, the amount of draft, like the process of getting PJ Washington and Lively and Kyrie was not like they lost a lot of they won those trades, but they lost a lot of opportunity cost as well. And so it's like their process to get there was kind of bad, and then they got rid of Luka. Like it's just they did all this to build around Luka just to trade his ass, and it's really confusing.
And it's the other side, the Lakers did all kind of goofy shit and, hamstrung their roster and then, oh hey, here's a gift. Like somebody on Twitter said the Knicks have spent 30 years running into head first into every wall possible trying to find an MVP caliber superstar. And the Lakers just pick up the phone one day and someone's like, would you like a Luka Dončić? The Lakers really do live a charmed existence as far as NBA fan bases go. I don't think they
Yeah,
understand.
no, they don't. Tom Ziller had obviously like an emergency version of Good Morning It's Basketball this morning, and he's been writing it. He's a Kings fan too, so has some extra beef with the Lakers, but I get it. But he's written about like Lakers exceptionalism for a really long time, and it's a real thing. Like no other franchise gets these bounces constantly. Like you don't survive this kind of
They
shit
almost
like
got one
anybody
so
else.
egregious that Stern had to stop it. Like he was like, "No, you cannot have Chris Paul. This has gone too far. The Lakers shit has gone too."
So in Ziller's newsletter, this is from something previous, but like a previous column about when Jim Buss was still running the team, but it's still prescient to now. Quote, when you convince yourself that you are by definition exceptional, you forget that gravity applies to everyone. The leaders of the LA Lakers, particularly Jim Buss, the owner's son and heir apparent, who essentially runs the club, don't consider the franchise just another NBA team. The Lakers are special. The Lakers have their own rules. The Lakers are exceptional, and the rest of us just wouldn't understand. But gravity applies to everyone. And that was because after that point, like, they made the playoffs and then they sucked for 6 years. But, I mean, like, again, they sucked for 6 years and then something truly exceptional happened. LeBron James went there. When the Lakers had no reason to sign someone like LeBron James. Like, someone like LeBron James who, winning is the most paramount thing, apparently. Got him when they hadn't made the playoffs in 6 freaking years. And then built the shittiest roster around him possible.
They got LeBron because one, they're the Lakers, and two, LA is LA. Everybody wants to live in LA. If you're somebody like a LeBron James who plays basketball in a Cleveland, Ohio, there's a chance you already live in LA, which he did at the time. Like everybody wants to be a Laker because of the history of the franchise, and everybody wants to live in LA because it's Los fucking Angeles. And the stars tend to align in your favor when that is the case. It's a nice place to be, I gotta say. It's a nice place to be as a franchise.
I guess the only thing maybe is like, and Ziller kind of talked about this too, is that like, just because you can land superstars doesn't necessarily that the results are always going to be good. I mean, they got LeBron and AD, but then have only won one championship, and they've missed the playoffs as many times as they've made it. So it's kind of like the results are mixed, but it's just the fact that they can still do it every time that's really freaking annoying. Like, really annoying. And like if I was to see Luka on any other team, I'd never really thought about it because honestly I didn't think Dallas would ever do this because they got their next Dirk. They transitioned right from Dirk into the next franchise superstar. Like it was a perfect transition. And I didn't see this coming, so I never really thought about Luka on any other team. But like there's a million other places I'd rather see him play, to be honest.
In my mind, Luka getting traded from the Mavericks seemed as unlikely as Luka suddenly playing for Team USA instead of Slovenia. Like I never thought that I would see that. Maybe when he's like 35, he might be like, you know what? Let me go chase a ring somewhere if he hadn't gotten one yet. But at 25, under contract, not even a free agent. Nah, there's no chance. I did not see that shit coming. And
And
neither
the
did
fact
me.
that the
And he
Mavericks are
didn't
the
even
one
get
who
to
initiated it.
trade after. He didn't even have the DM didn't even have a conversation with him. He said he left a message on his phone. That's it.
He probably doesn't want to talk to me right now. No shit, dude.
Yeah,
Especially because
I'm
if he
guessing
said that
most people in Dallas don't want to talk to him right now.
they probably want to like burn his ass at the stake right now. There's some like Salem witch trials, but for Nico Harrison. Like,
I
what the
saw a
fuck?
fan. I saw a video of fans with a casket at American Airlines Arena, and they were mourning the death of the Dallas Mavericks.
But actually, the Nico Harrison quote that Kevin O'Connor posts, I think I sent it to you on Twitter, but it's wild. So Nico Harrison quote, "The future to me is 3 to 4 years from now. The future 10 years from now, they'll probably bury me and Jason Kidd by then. Or we'll bury ourselves."
Let's
Brother,
bury
we're
you today,
burying you
man.
now.
Like, what you mean?
And
Talking about
also,
the future.
it's so funny that he brought Jason Kidd into it because there's another report that just came out that Jason Kidd didn't frickin' know either.
Of course he didn't. Why would he agree to that?
He would never. And so
And
it's
it's
so
weird. And
funny.
it's not like I'm saying it's not gonna work, but it's crazy to do just because of how young he was and how much the franchise has put into him. It just feels so strange.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I imagine
just
if you're a player thinking about going to the Dallas Mavericks, you're maybe rethinking going to the Dallas Mavericks.
absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's so confusing and it's just like every justification for it from the Mavericks themselves has just really like I don't know, it's really to me kind of just been like I don't know, just like cop outs. Like it's just like just say you're being cheap because now this is the second guard that you didn't want to pay, and it's one thing for Jalen Brunson where he's on the edge of like being a star and you're not really sure if he's gonna be worth it, right? Like to be fair, the Knicks did take a chance on him, right? And he worked out, he proved it. Love Jalen Brunson, he's awesome. But at the time, there was not necessarily a lot of prevailing belief that he could be that good, right? Like,
Mm.
he definitely took a star turn with the Knicks, and I'm really happy he did. He's awesome. And he was obviously really good with the Mavericks, and the Mavericks did botch that situation. But it was at least a little more understandable, like a smidge more understandable. Luka's like a bona fide megastar, like you know. And I get that he plays like a very heliocentric style and shit like that, but he's also largely been the only good player on that roster for a long time, so it kind of makes sense. Having Kyrie
What's the
there,
finals
he
last
actually
season?
he adjusted a lot this last year with Kyrie there. Him and Kyrie really found a chemistry. So it's not like they weren't working. His heliocentric style was still a thing, but it's been less of a thing. And it's weird. Like, I don't know. It's just confusing. And then, I don't know. The basketball reasons just don't really make sense to me at all.
I
Which I
get
guess we should maybe
some
get
of
to
the
that.
basketball reasons. I think they're just like, you know what? Kyrie's going to be enough ball handling for us in that starting lineup, and we're going to go out there and we're going to do every team like we did Oklahoma City and just bully them and get 100 billion offensive rebounds and just fuck people up with our defense. But at the same time, it's like, I guess Luka doesn't necessarily match that vision to basketball, but then him being able to break from that and give you that extra playmaking and shooting and all that is part of why they made the finals. I don't know if going all in on we're just going to beat you up is necessarily going to get them there. Maybe they're just really thinking about Oklahoma City. Someone made the case the other day that like they played Oklahoma City like 3 or 4 times, like the last 3 or 4 times they played them, and they won all the ones that Luka wasn't there, and they lost the one that Luka was there. That seems like a really small sample to overreact to. But maybe they're just really that scared of the Thunder. Maybe they're that dead set on just out physicaling them, as they say. But it still seems like a wild move to me. I don't know that you're necessarily getting the best. You talk about the future. You can get 10 years out of Luka. You're not getting 10 more years out of Anthony Davis.
You're honestly going to be lucky if you get 5. And same with Kyrie. It's not like Kyrie's young. It's kind of weird to go all in on Kyrie as your main ball handler with Anthony Davis because it's not like either of them have particularly great health records. Kyrie's been better since he's been in Dallas, but I mean, he's missed a shitload of games in the last 5 years.
Yep.
So it just is kind of a strange, and like to your point, like they said, they just want to bully Oklahoma, but it's like that doesn't even hold water to me because they beat Oklahoma in the playoffs last year. And I get that Oklahoma's better now, but are they that much better? And you could still bully them with Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford because they're still bigger than anybody else that Oklahoma has. And again, to your point, small sample size. Like, it's just weird. It seems like a very specific kind of like, well, maybe. It's just people, I think, to be honest, it's what we're doing, kind of grasping at straws to figure out why, because it's just really confusing. This is not something you do. Like, even in 2K, this is not really something you frickin' do.
The 2K trade logic wouldn't let you trade Anthony Davis and one first for Luka. Like the GM in the video game, that bar on the trade meter would be like a quarter full, and it would tell you to go fuck yourself. Like that's what would happen because the game is like programmed to calculate in like age and like potential and like the way that people progress over a curve. The game would tell you to go fuck yourself if you tried to make that trade. It really would. It actually genuinely would, unless you turned on override, which then you cheating.
Yeah, which is stupid.
That's the Lakers setting. You turn on trade override, you're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna force this through, and y'all just gonna deal with it.
Yeah, right. And it's not even a good first because Luka's still going to be like 29, so he's still going to be in his prime. And the Lakers are probably still going to be at least like good enough that your pick's not going to be a top 10 pick even.
Because they have Luka, like before.
It might it
49
might
Lakers
be
fans
in the
looking
lottery, but it's not going to be good. Like, I
Yeah.
don't even know. I didn't see any protections on the pick, so you're kind of just hoping that
Mm.
year maybe Luka's injured and the rest of the team is ass. But I mean, the thing is now you have a player like Luka there, and free agents are going to want to go to LA already. They already did want to go to LA, and now that you have a player like Luka, they're extra going to want to go to LA. I mean, not that LeBron has done a ton to bring free agents, but Luka's so much younger, and I think that changes things. Like, I think when LeBron came to the Lakers, like, he was already on the other side of 30, and like, while he's been amazing, and it's still amazing. I mean, he had a triple double at MSG again.
We don't got
I don't think that he's been the free agent attraction just because of his age a little bit, and the Lakers just kind of being a weird dumpster fire. But I mean, Luka's way younger, and there's way more room now for like. And Luka's gonna get you easy buckets if you can hit outside shots. He's like LeBron. He's gonna get you easy, but he's gonna get points. Not easy to play with all the time, but he's a little bit less mercurial than LeBron. Like, he doesn't throw his teammates under the bus in the same way, and he doesn't play GM.
you defend that he pouts, but not at his teammates necessarily. More for the refs.
Yeah, and his
Yeah.
energy does kind of tank the team a little bit. But I also think that like now getting to play with a player like LeBron, that's going to change a little bit. He's going to see probably the other side of things of like, oh, I can't do that anymore because I'll have him yell at me, and you don't want to get yelled at by LeBron, right? He's going to respect the hell out of LeBron because he loves LeBron, so there's going to be a lot of respect there already, so that will probably help. And, I mean, if anything, even if LeBron retires after this year, which I'm still not 100% convinced he will, you've now had half a season at least of LeBron and Luka, and LeBron's going to rub off on Luka really hard in those 6 months. So I think you're going to see a different Luka Dončić. I also think you're going to see a different Luka Dončić because he just got traded when he didn't want to be traded. Like, he's going to be pissed. We're going to see a very vengeful Slovenian on the court, and it's going to be
if they play
rough
the
for the rest
Mavs,
of
he's
it.
shooting at every play. He's trying to fuck everybody
Yeah.
up. He's trying to dribble between people's legs, all that stuff.
He's going to nutmeg everybody he can.
Step backs from 45 feet, like that's fucking.
He
He's
might
gonna be
even dunk.
flexing, running people over.
He
Yeah,
might
he
even
might dunk
dunk.
a couple times. He might dunk might play some defense.
If you can get him to play defense out of spite, then hey, good for you. Like,
Yeah,
his shooting's
gotta
going to
get
get him now
Jordan
because he's
time.
got
Get him
JJ.
pissed off at somebody every game. You know what I mean? Give him a reason to take it personal.
Yeah, right. Because I mean, he's certainly a competitor and has a chip on his shoulder. He doesn't really need that, but like he's now extra pissed. It's not going to go well for the rest of the league, and especially the Mavericks when they play him. Yikes.
I think that second apron has everybody moving different, man. It has everybody. Every front office just shook right now. You look at a big part of the trade that was being reported was that post trade now Luka's no longer eligible for a supermax with the Lakers, and AD isn't eligible for a supermax extension with the Mavs. And I think the Mavs were like, we are not trying to pay Luka that supermax and get locked
$375 million.
into it.
Yeah.
That is a lot of money. Yeah.
Do you know how much money this trade essentially costs Luka? Because I'm going to say it probably costs him like close to 100 million. I would say probably.
Wouldn't surprise me. It's got to be at least 50. Like, I mean, it's quite a bit. But I mean, yeah, the Mavs basically said, okay, we're gonna have a superstar who's also in and out of availability, who also will not be on a supermax. I think a little bit of financial management there, a little bit of accounting trickery there from the GM, which I mean,
I think it's
it's
comes back
tough.
to ownership too, right? Because they're also staring down the barrel of this like new salary cap rules, and they're like, ooh, no. Much like the Timberwolves did with Cat. I mean, you knew they were going to have to move Cat or Gobert. I still didn't expect it to be Cat, to be honest with you.
The most movable, unfortunately, not the one you
Yeah,
want to move the most, but the most
he was
movable
the most movable
is
for
what
sure.
happens a lot of the time. Like Luka, more movable than Kyrie because he's younger.
Yeah.
But
But is he? Because his
boy, the
contract.
backlash.
I feel like Kyrie actually has revived a lot of his trade value in Dallas too, so he actually could have been pretty
Yeah.
tradable.
Oh yeah, but
Especially
just from
because
age.
he's
Just
the
from
kind of
age, yeah.
but he's the kind of player though that a contender like you wouldn't get the Lakers, but you're gonna get say a team like I don't know again Milwaukee. Would they make a Kyrie for Lillard trade? Probably, because Kyrie's contract is way better and Kyrie's been a better player recently. Just to throw out an example, like you could probably get someone good for Kyrie still because he's revived a lot of his trade value. He's been a model citizen in Dallas, frankly. So I think a lot of what tanked his trade value in Brooklyn is kind of back. It's just still a problem, but for a contender, I mean, like, they'd go for it. I mean, I'm sure the Sixers could probably find a way to throw something in for Kyrie and help out Maxey in the
Interesting.
backcourt, right? Like they could, maybe. I don't know. Just trying to think of contenders who could like throw something out
Yeah.
there.
Jimmy.
Well, honestly though, Miami,
Jimmy
right?
for
I
Kyrie.
mean, yeah. at this point. But I don't know. It's weird. It's so strange. And it has to be, I keep coming back to the fact that like, I think it has to be salary cap based because from a basketball perspective, this still just makes very little sense. And it's not 2018. It's not like Kyrie and AD are going to be like you should run a shitload of pick and roll with them because like it'll work. But I mean, will it?
They dropped that news at like 12:30 a.m. to trying to
News dump for sure. Yeah.
trying to slide it in the middle of the weekend, just hopefully
Big
nobody
news
will
dump
notice this. Because
energy.
technically, Sears had just played a game too and played really well.
Yeah. Big
It's
news
one of
dump
their better
energy.
games of the season. I mean, I personally hated it, but it was a nice performance from the Los Angeles Lakers.
I also hated it because they don't deserve nice things. I hate everything that just happened for the Lakers in the last 24 hours.
JJ Redick coaching his former teammate now.
Yeah, kind of weird, but I mean, Luka's shooting is about to improve probably. Do you believe the reports that LeBron didn't know?
I actually kind of do because apparently, so people asked LeBron about. There was sources close to LeBron that asked about like whether he's willing to move, and he said he is not willing to waive his no trade clause. I don't think he engineers a move to get his son drafted by the Lakers. If he plans on leaving the Lakers, that would be like really a problem for me. And I feel like I don't know. He wanted AD there so bad. I don't think that he would.
I
I
guess
think I
that's.
think he wanted a piece in addition to him and AD. I think
I
it's what
think
he was
you're right.
pressuring them to do. I don't think he was looking to move AD for a piece.
The first time I read the report that he found out at dinner, I was like, okay,
Right.
LeBron,
Yeah. Sources close
right?
to LeBron equals LeBron James is
But
typically how it goes.
yeah, right. But the more details that have come out, like about how little even like Luka knew, because at first I'm like, was Luka behind the scenes driving for a trade, but he's just not the kind of person to be public about it.
Mhm.
But again, the team's pretty good around him, so it's not like he has a reason. Like a couple years ago, that would have made more sense. But since they got Kyrie and Lively and like players that like really fit around Luka, I was like, hmm. But the more that's come out, I was like, okay, I don't know that LeBron actually knew as much, and maybe he knew a little bit more than like AD, but I still don't think so because if LeBron knew, he would have talked to AD about it, right? Like I just can't see him keeping that confidential because it's not AD is different than his other teammates.
Mhm.
This is not like an Austin Reeves situation, right? Where like I know LeBron and Austin Reeves get along really well. He really likes Austin. It's not like that.
Not in the
So
executive circle.
he's not at Taco Tuesday at his house and shit like that, right? Those videos. So I think to me, it kind of feels. I feel actually like LeBron. This is a bit more surprising to him. He's not going to be mad about it for as much as he loves AD. I bet you he's probably not mad. But
Yeah. I think the reason I believe it is partly because of that reported conversation between Rob Pelinka and Nico Harrison, where Nico was like, "Hey man, would you like Luka?" And he was like, "Are you joking?" Like the fact, because if this was a LeBron engineered thing, then Rob Pelinka just like he's we know that Rob was approached about this. If this was like LeBron engineered, then I think that the Lakers would have had to be the ones to start the conversation rather than the
yeah,
other way around. So I
yeah,
think this may have maybe Pelinka would have whispered to LeBron and told him at some point, but I don't think this came from LeBron James.
no. Well, I never thought that. I just thought that maybe he knew about it a little bit more in advance than finding out at dinner after the Knicks game.
Mhm.
That was my only really theory. I didn't think LeBron tried to engineer this because he, again, like you said, I think he wanted something
Mhm.
in addition
Yeah, I think the
to,
D'Lo trade, and then hopefully pieces from the D'Lo trade. I think that's kind of what the LeBron GM side was trying to orchestrate. I don't think anybody saw Luka in a Lakers jersey. It's gonna look weird. I think the photoshops are always a little goofy, but they look a little awkward. Like sometimes you see that jersey swap, and it looks okay. Like the first time I saw Cat in a Knicks jersey, I was like, yeah, I think that fits him.
Luka has the same pasty complexion that I do, and that shade of yellow is not for us.
It's not. It's really not. He might look better in the purple, maybe,
The purple will be
but
fine. Royal
yeah,
purple
the
looks
yellow don't
great
really
on
work
me, so
for him.
it'll look great on him.
Yeah,
But
the
it's
yellow don't
definitely a
work for
darker
me.
color situation.
Yeah,
There's
I can't rock the yellow.
there's like two colors for like fair ass Eastern European skin tones like mine
Mhm.
and Lucas, and yellow and orange are two of them that are just like it has to be a very specific shade if it's not going to completely wash you out and make you look weird. So yeah,
Yeah,
kind of weird.
I can't wear that in the summertime. It would just be like monochrome. It would look awful. Like I couldn't play for the Lakers.
No, it'd be bad. Yeah, or I could never play for Syracuse. That orange, oof, rough.
Yeah, I could rock
Good
a
news,
mustard,
Hiss.
but not a yellow, not a
Good,
straight
yeah,
gold.
same.
Yeah.
Good news is I'm not talented nearly enough to play for Syracuse ever, so be good.
Well,
No
these days
professional
might
teams
be.
are calling me.
I mean, I don't think Hughes is what they used to be. This is not Carmelo's Syracuse that we're
To be
seeing
fair,
on the
I was
basketball
never
court.
good enough. Even at my peak, I was never good enough for even bad Syracuse, let's be real.
Damn.
Yeah, skill's not there. But anyway, and the green hair, it clashed really bad. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. This trade is just, it's messed up. I mean, and someone else too was like, I saw on Twitter in the reactions, because it was just instant. Everyone's like, what the fuck? And I think the collective reaction was, what the actual fuck?
We
But
saw
I
the
think
Suns
that,
react in real time, like during
yeah,
their game. They were like
Devin
looking at their phones like,
Booker was like, Luka Garza? It's like, no, no.
it's insane.
And then you heard somebody on the I think it was Booker or somebody on the Phoenix bench yelling trade for Jimmy. But it's just weird. Like but when he was one of the reactions I saw was like questioning how bad Luka's injury is, because he's had that calf injury and everyone's worried that's like Achilles kind of related, right? So I saw a reaction that was like, is his injury like actually so much worse than we think, and so the Mavericks don't want to deal with that? Like, what's going on here? But I don't think it's that. I'm so confused. I'm frankly just confused by it. I just don't think it was a good trade. This has the potential to go down as probably one of the worst trades ever if it doesn't work at all for the Mavericks. If the Mavericks don't go far in the playoffs in the next 2 years, they are fucked.
There was somebody in the chat for a sports site that I write for that was talking about like, oh, worst trade in NBA history, and I was like, huh? There have been trades so bad that people have had to make rules about them. Like
Yeah.
we've
This
seen
is
trades get vetoed by the commissioner for being so bad.
If David
This,
Stern was
this, this
still
is a
alive, this would have
Stepien
gotten
rule
vetoed.
because there's a dude who was allergic to his own first round picks. Like he fucked up his franchise so bad that they had to disallow you from trading first rounders in
That
consecutive
was
drafts.
Prokhorov, right?
Like
That was
that.
the Nets.
The Nuggets, I think Stepien was the GM of.
Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, it was, because it was Bobby Marks that made the Brooklyn trade.
My God, yeah, that was atrocious. The shit he traded to get Harrison.
KG. You know, I'll give him credit though, when he's like talking and like podcasts and whatever as a commentator, he owns
Yeah.
that mistake. Like, I will give him credit for at least owning how badly he fucked up. Funniest part is that the GM after, also named Marks, managed to fix things and then made some weird ass trades and then also managed to fix things again. Hilarious. The Nets are weird.
Strange franchise. Send him back to New Jersey.
This is not the worst trade in NBA history, but it's by far one of the most baffling.
The most unexpected, probably. Like
That too, because at least like with the Nets, say like the situation trying to trade for KG and Paul Pierce, you knew that the owner was, you know, some rich Russian guy who believes you can like buy wins, right? So you kind of, it was less confusing at least. Like, still a bad trade objectively on the face of it. You're like, dude, why? But at least it like you could kind of understand the logic of like, okay, well, I know the context of this owner wants to win and he thinks he can buy wins. KG and Paul Pierce were past their prime, but still really good. They traded way too much for them. But, you know, there was at least like, it didn't make sense, but you could at least maybe piece together logic through context.
they had a new arena, new location. They were like, we want to put a winning team
Yeah,
on the court right away, drum up
right.
excitement, make some fans, blah 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 blah
Yeah,
blah.
like the
There was
context of
some
it
sort of
all.
ethos behind that shit, right?
Yeah, the context of it all kind of at least gives it. It's kind of like the Big Lebowski quote, like, say what you will about National Socialism, at least it's an ethos. Like, you kind of get
Yeah,
it, right? You're like,
yeah.
okay, like this was stupid, but I get it.
It's like how the Clippers will not blow it up because they have a new arena.
Yeah,
They want
and to
people to
be
fucking
honest,
be at the
like
games.
that Paul George trade really hasn't aged super well, but they've managed to work well around it, right? Like, it hasn't. The Clippers have been consistently good. They didn't get the
Mhm.
results they wanted, but it made them relevant. They've stayed relevant, and exactly got them into the new arena. They've got like a good team now. I mean,
There's asses in those seats.
right? And it's fine, right? You kind of get it. And especially with the Clippers trade, like, as much as it was a lot giving up someone like Shea, first of all, when they traded Shea, nobody knew Shea was going to be Shea.
Mhm.
And the other thing, too, is that you also got Kawhi. While it wasn't through the trade, it was basically you got Kawhi Leonard. So, like, you kind of had to do it. It's easier to justify. This is not super justifiable, and it's, I think, what makes it less justifiable. It'd be one thing if they wanted to trade Luka, and again, like we talked about, like, it's fine, whatever. It's weird, but fine. If you want to trade Luka, go for it. What really I just can't get past, and what makes it so bad for me, is that it was a closed market. Like, that's just, it's stupid. I don't get it.
One team
One
talked to them
team.
about Luka. They went
You're
to
not going to get,
they didn't even call. They went to one team and they said, "Would
yeah.
you like Luka?" They didn't even ask anybody else. They didn't see what other packages they could get. They didn't shop him. Maybe
No.
they didn't want the rumors to get out or whatever, but they talked to one team and they said, "Hey man,
But you could shop him
y'all
without
got
rumors
anything?"
getting
And they were
out.
like, "AD and Ohers.
And
That's
it's
not
the
good."
fact that the reports are coming out that they were locked in on AD. Like AD was the target. And like that's just
Mm.
not like the Lakers were like, well, we can give you AD to match the salary or something. The Mavericks sought AD out. Which again, no disrespect to AD, but like he is not Luka. He's not even close to Luka. Even at his prime, he wasn't really close to Luka. He never really, he could have been. He never really lived up to it in that sense. But like, just I don't know. It's just baffling.
It's gonna be interesting. Hopefully, the rest of their season goes better than today's game. They were down by like almost 40 points to Cleveland a little bit ago. I mean, almost everyone relevant was either traded or injured. But
Do
man,
you know much
real
about
ugly
AD's?
first game after the trade.
Do you know much about AD's situation? Because I know he sat out the next game because he was injured, but it says abdominal sprain, so it wasn't just like a DNP. But I'm
Mm.
curious. Like, part of me is like, how injured is he actually, or were they just like, hey, maybe you should sit this one out? Just it's all good.
I didn't check to see if he played like the few games before that, so
Yeah,
I
I
don't
haven't
really
looked
know.
either.
But it wouldn't surprise me if we don't see him in a Mavs jersey for a little bit.
Yeah, same. I mean, he's injured all the time, so it's not particularly surprising that he's actually injured. A part of me is like, were they like, hey, it's not that serious, but maybe just like sit this one out. We don't need you. We're good. Like, I don't know. I mean, they probably wouldn't against the Knicks at MSG. I suspect they
No, yeah.
wouldn't do that. But a part of you is always kind of wondering, right? Just because it happened
Yeah, if
then.
they were in Brooklyn, I think they would have sat him for just a chill. But I think maybe not against the
The
Knicks, which
Knicks.
oh my God, I hope OG's okay.
Yeah. Uh, so I don't know. Maybe Nico Harrison saw what was happening with the Wings in Dallas and we're like, here, let's get in on this action and hold my beer. I don't
Yeah,
know.
Dallas Wings, man.
Should we
They're a
transition to WN? Do
franchise.
you have any other final thoughts
They
on
exist.
Luka? Yeah, they do.
Final thought on Luka. Oh, I am really just genuinely curious to see
How he
what it's going to
skills.
look like next to LeBron because we've seen LeBron next to Dwayne Wade, who was obviously the sun around which the Heat revolved before LeBron got there. You've seen him next to Kyrie, who was used to being, having the ball in his hands a lot in Cleveland before LeBron got back there. But we haven't seen him play next to somebody quite like Luka. Kyrie and Dwayne Wade both are pretty good as off the ball players, right? Can cut, finish, in devastating ways off the ball. I
And you have to
I
make a sacrifice to play next to
wonder.
LeBron. You
The
really
Luka
do.
is used to having like pounding the air out that ball, which is a little different from the other guys. He's going to have to learn how to play off the rock a little bit. But LeBron can do it. Luka's going to have to get used to. I mean, he's played with Kyrie, but they stagger them a little bit and all that stuff. He's going to have to get used to being a little bit more spot up, maybe cutting here and there. It's going to have to unlock a new dimension to his game. It's going to be interesting to see how that goes.
I'm curious if they stagger LeBron and Luka too a little bit, like a lot more. Because I mean, they'll start together, obviously, but then
Hmm.
you can stagger them through the game. I wonder if they kind of go that route just to like keep everybody happy. Because I think LeBron wants the ball in his hands, but he's also like at this age where he's like, maybe I don't want it in my hands all the time. I'm curious to see if LeBron starts to play more like a big man again and just setting screens for Luka, and then vice versa. I mean, they're both pretty big. Like Luka's not a small man, so he can still set good screens for LeBron. So
The screen last night where I was like, I felt like it looked like it fucking hurt the
yeah,
dude who ran into it. I think it might have been Bridges. So he set that screen
pain.
and he hit him, and I was just like, oh, that looked uncomfortable.
Luka's ability to set screens for LeBron, like his willingness, not even his ability. I'm sure he's capable of it, but his ability, or sorry, not his ability, his want, his willingness to set screens for LeBron will be, I think, a really big key. Because I think Luka has that like Westbrookian quality where you're kind of like, okay, what are you gonna do off the ball? And
Mm.
Westbrook's a great cutter. I think he just needs, like, obviously we've seen in Denver, right? You just kind of need that player where he is willing or wants to do it for. I think that the situation was just so toxic in LA that no matter what Westbrook did, it was never going to be right. So I just think that that was kind of part of the problem more than anything else. I don't think it was Westbrook's like willingness necessarily. I just think that the situation got so bad and with the Lakers that I don't know. Anyway, neither here nor there. But I'm curious to see what Luka's willing to do off the ball. And he got better off the ball with Kyrie coming to the Mavericks. But yeah, interesting. I don't know. I'm curious. He plays a very heliocentric style, much like James Harden, right? So it's kind of interesting. But James has kind of gone back to not being that player entirely either. He had to be a little bit for the Clippers at the beginning of the season, but now that Kawhi is back and Norman Powell is basically a superstar again, or for the first time, in his career, sorry. Harden's been more of a distributor and kind of scoring when he needs to, and he's not quite as heliocentric. So I'm curious if maybe Luka. I feel like Luka will. The good news is that LeBron's a player that Luka's absolutely going to defer to in the sense that, like, if LeBron
tells like leadership and shit.
Yeah, because if LeBron tells him to jump, he's going to say how high, because it's LeBron. He grew up watching LeBron and loves LeBron. And I think there's also an implicit knowledge that LeBron's not going to last forever, especially not. He has maybe 2 or 3 years left, right? Like, realistically. I'm sure his body could keep going. It's just his willingness to keep going.
He's not going to Gordie Howe and play until 50, I don't think. I don't think.
Would be
LeBron in the G League at 51 years old, just scoring a solid 15 a night.
I can see LeBron doing the Tom Brady, where essentially he just wants to win one more and then call it a day. But even LeBron said winning isn't his biggest priority anymore. Like, he obviously wants to win, but there's other stuff that kind of drives him to play. And so I'm kind of curious about now if he's maybe feeling more energized getting a player like Luka. Because the thing is that, like, obviously him and AD were super close. I just saw something pop up about LeBron posted a very sad story on Instagram. It's crazy when someone posting an Instagram story is actually like news. But anyway, it's kind of a weird world we live in. But I wonder if there's like a certain energy about getting to play with a young, true star like Luka. Like, LeBron's never played with a talent like Luka. Even Pete Kyrie was never as good as Luka.
I guess the closest would be Wade, but Wade was already like 30.
And I don't think even peak Dwayne Wade was as good as Luka, to be honest.
Maybe
that's a hot take, but
there was that championship.
That's a hot take. I'll walk that back. That's a hot take. But by the time LeBron played with Wade, by the time he played with him, he wasn't the same. And they're different kinds of players too. Wade's a different player than Luka, so. I'm
like the world's biggest like Dwayne Wade defender though. Like, I will hop in and be like, enough. I have hot takes about Dwayne Wade in the other direction where I'm like, y'all youngins don't know what Dwayne Wade was when he was young.
No, it's true though. I do agree generally with that sentiment. I guess maybe by the time LeBron played with Wade, he wasn't as good. But I don't know. He's never played with a player like Luka. Maybe not. Like, I think Dwayne Wade had the same level of talent
at the height of his powers.
And I think that Dwayne Wade, even at his prime, had the same like level of talent as Luka, just different skills. Like, they're different players, right? So it's maybe hard to just equate them, honestly. Because Dwayne Wade was obviously like one of the best shot blockers at the shooting guard position ever, and shit like that. So I think that changes things. But I'm curious how a player like Austin Reeves. I mean, Austin Reeves is pretty moldable, so I think he'll fit well next to Luka. But his shooting is going to have to improve for sure. Like, they're going to need way better outside shooting for this to work, because Luka's much like LeBron, where you just need to fill out with shooters and people who can defend.
There's a certain segment of the population that is very excited for the Luka Austin Reeves backcourt.
I think it could be fun.
Somebody messaged in that same group chat like, "Oh man, Reeves and Luka is gonna go crazy as a backcourt." I was like, Luka was just playing with Kyrie Irving, right?
Right. I mean, like, Reeves is a good player around Luka. Actually, he's a great player to put around him. He's not Kyrie Irving. I am super curious what the hell the Lakers are gonna do in the middle, because they don't have any bigs really.
Somebody's gonna be like, "Hey, but would you like Bam Adebayo?" No, I'm kidding. Somebody though, they're gonna luck into some goofy shit. Like, I don't know who they're gonna get. Hey, I'm willing to part with Jericho Sims for 3 firsts. The low price of 3 first rounders, unprotected.
More first than they gave up for Luka. Well, the thing is though, is it's funny, but also they may actually have to overpay to get a center or somebody decent in the middle, because like now everyone's like, well, fuck you, you just got Luka. We're not bending over for you like the Mavericks did, buddy. Like, give us something, Rob. And I mean, they have like Kleba can play a small ball 5, so like they've got something. But
Jazz
I guess
and what's his name? Oh
Walker
my God!
Kessler.
Like, hey, we'll take 7 second-round picks for Walker Kessler.
I don't think the Jazz said they're not
for the rest of like until the heat death of the universe for Walker Kessler.
Which could be soon, actually. Maybe Nico saw what was just going on in the world, was like, you know what, the world's not going to last much longer, so fuck it. I don't know.
Yeah, you think what's going to last longer, Earth or Anthony Davis's hamstrings? Like, who knows? Who knows?
It is it's a fair question. Who knows? Yeah.
Glaciers are melting.
Both of which are possibly apocalyptic situations. So
yeah.
I guess Nico said, "Give me that ring before the universe blows up." God, before we go to nuclear war with somebody. Yeah, the Jazz said they're not trading Walker Kessler. I don't know how serious Danny Ainge really was about that, but I'm curious what happens there.
Trying to drop the price.
What other centers?
Get that extra second round pick. He's a hoarder. I bet his apartment is disgusting.
Ugh, yeah, I don't want to be near Ainge's house. I'm curious what other centers would be even available right now.
Yusuf Nurkic,
I mean,
Mason
Zeke,
Plumlee.
yikes. Yeah, I mean, if they want to take a flyer on somebody like Zeke Naji, I'm sure that the Nuggets would take something.
I'm sure they'd accommodate.
Yeah, they'd be more than happy to make that happen.
Get
I'm
out
just
that
trying to
contract, yeah.
think of other teams that have people available.
Anybody who's got a good center is probably somewhere
Not
in the
doing.
general realm of contention and don't really want to part with them. Like, there's not really a lot
No,
of,
people.
as they say, not a lot of 7-footers who
Well,
can walk and chew gum at the same time.
yeah, I think that like I know LeBron's been recruiting Valanciunas. Not that Valanciunas can just go there, but I feel like he's a good option. I'd actually love to see JV on the Lakers. I think he'd fit well with Luka and LeBron because he's going to set some monster screens and he's got lots of juice left. He's a very
Give
efficient
Vooch, maybe.
player still. Yeah,
I
Vooch
don't
would
know if
be
the salaries
okay.
will work out, though, but
No, I think Valanciunas' salary is perfect for trading because he's on that like mid-level exception situation. So I think you could at least trade for him a little bit easier. And the Wizards are the Wizards, so I'm sure JV would be happy to go somewhere else. He took the money, and then I think he was expecting to get. I honestly do believe that he took that deal knowing, hey, I can get paid and then get traded to somewhere good.
yeah. Show out a little bit, remind everyone I'm
Yeah,
useful,
yeah,
get shipped to a contender at the deadline, which coming up real soon. It's in like
yeah.
less
It's
than a
in.
week.
I was gonna say it's very soon, so there will be more moves for sure. I suspect by our next regular episode in a week, there'll be a lot more to report on because the basketball world is currently drunk. All kinds of drugs floating around with these GMs.
Maybe, and this is a long shot. Maybe because the OG Anunoby injury and with um the Knicks' general issues with getting bench productions this year, and I'm just floating this. I'd have to look at the salaries and shit. I'd have to trade machine that shit. Mitchell Robinson to the Lakers for a package
Four.
of like maybe a guard and a wing
Like,
or
what would you
something.
want off that roster? I feel like you'd
Reeves.
have to get a
I'd want
player like
Reeves.
Reeves. Yeah, it's
I'd
like
want
Reeves
Reeves.
would be the player you'd have to get
Yeah.
because they don't have anybody else that's really truly like good. Like,
Yeah, Reeves would
well,
give us
that's
the
not
ball
true.
handler off the bench who can shoot,
Yeah,
and then Mitch would
yeah.
give them a rim protector.
I was gonna say they have other players that are good, but that trade makes sense for what like needs, like team needs, because the
Yeah.
Knicks don't need a player like Dorian Finney-Smith. As much as Finney-Smith is a good defender, like 3-and-D wing, the Knicks
Yeah.
have enough of that kind of role player.
We
They
need
need
someone who can
like an
handle the rock.
actual. They need someone who can come off like actually give them something.
Our rim protection would be fucked up if we made that trade, but
Yeah,
it already is.
man.
I guess we would just ride with Cat at center full time, and then
Yeah.
Precious off the bench, who
The
is really
other
good.
the other star I'm curious to see who gets traded is De'Aaron Fox. I think that's going to happen. There's too much smoke for there not to be fire.
I mean, yeah, they just gotta find the right fit, cause like,
The Spurs seem pretty locked in on trying to get him. They really want to pair Fox with Wembanyama, which I think would be fun, but I think Fox's shooting is way too mercurial.
I think the fact that Wemby can shoot, I think might make it
Helps.
work.
It does help.
I think it helps.
And having Stephon Castle, who I think also is pretty good from the perimeter right now.
I
He's
think
shooting
he's
okay.
bricking from the outside currently, but I think he can get good at
I
shooting.
think he was a good shooter in college, if I remember correctly. Like he was a pretty good two-way player. Like he not like a great shooter, but good enough that
Mm,
he'll develop. And
he'll
the
figure
Spurs
it
have
out.
always the Spurs have Chip Engelland still, so I think they'll be fine.
He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But the
Anyways,
NBA, not the only league that has been fucking blasting out trade alerts and shit lately.
the Mavericks just said, "Hold my beer." They wanted to get in on this. They saw the Wings having a lot of fun, and were like, "Hey, hey, hey, you can't be the only people to trade your unicorn."
Like it's been crazy. So obviously, so as a Mercury fan, I saw the Thomas trade confirmation, right? Satu Sabali also coming over. The announcement came like a day or two later. It's all lumped in now as part of a giant 13-player trade between four teams. It is nuts. But the first domino that fell before all this shit started happening, we talked about this a little bit in the last pod. Brittany
We have
Griner
some, yeah.
plays for the Atlanta Dream now on a 1-year deal.
That was a jersey swap I was not prepared to see. Luka just released a statement, actually.
Shit. Okay.
Breaking news. Okay, this is his letter. Dear Dallas, 7 years ago I came here as a teenager to pursue my dream of playing basketball at the highest level. I thought I'd spend my career here and I wanted so badly to bring you a championship. The love and support you all have given me is more than I could ever have dreamed of. For a young kid from Slovenia coming to the U.S. for the first time, you made North Texas feel like home. In good times and bad, from injuries to the NBA Finals, your support never changed. Thank you not only for sharing my joy in our best moments, but also for lifting me up when I needed it most. To all the organizations I've worked with throughout the Dallas community, thank you for letting me contribute to your important work and join you in bringing light to those who need it. As I start the next part of my basketball journey, I am leaving a city that will always feel like a home away from home. Dallas is a special place, and Mavs fans are special fans. So that's
Oh,
not
came from the
that's
bottom
not
of my
this
heart. That's cute.
that's not a statement that you make when you that a player who wanted to leave makes. Like
He did
that's
not
way
want
too
out.
no. And I truly believe he means every word of that because he had a connection with Mavs fans. Like, I mean, what's going to be really
Well, they
awkward is
love.
Slovenian night's coming up, so that's weird.
One of my friends, when the news broke, he was like, started following the Mavs and moved to Dallas. I'd grown up a little bit closer to South Texas. I was kind of like a Rockets guy when I was a kid. I think I might be done with the Mavs now. That's like, damn, that's tough.
That is tough.
That's
But
tough.
anyway, back to franchise altering. I wanted to read that because it was it's the first time he's spoken, so I was curious what he said. But anyways, yeah, Brittany Griner on the Dream, super weird.
It
Don't
it
know how
feels
I feel
strange.
about it.
She did mention, as we talked about last time, that Unrivaled was kind of like she was kind of using it as like a part of her exploration of free agency, right? Gets to play with different players for the first time. Exists in a different basketball context. I still thought that Phoenix would be the team most likely to keep her.
I wonder how much of it has to do with DT and how much she knows.
Yeah, we still don't know if DT is retiring officially. It feels more likely now than it did a week ago.
I think what I wonder about truly, and my partner and I were talking about this because she's also a Mercury fan, was because Brittany and DT are so close. I wonder if Brittany kind of just knows,
Yeah,
like implicitly a little bit. It's kind of like it almost feels a bit like what happened in Cleveland with Kyrie, except Kyrie was like wanted out, but when he wasn't sure what was going to happen with LeBron, and he's like, I don't want to be tied to this anymore. Like, I want to make my own decision. And to your point, I think this was probably the first time that free agency has been a real. The last couple of years, like we talked about in our last episode, with how Stewie kind of like took free agent meetings, went back to Seattle for one more year with Sue, and then left in free agency again. And we saw that trend of players kind of wanting to be wine and dined. Wine and dined. Spoiler alert, that's why we chose the name of our podcast. But anyway, you could see players wanting to be wine and dined a little bit, right? Because it's the first time that free agency has really been like a real thing in the WNBA in terms of like teams being allowed to do stuff. There's just more available movement. So I wonder if Brittany Griner was like, this is my time, right? And like you said, Unrivaled has been kind of like a home. And it happened for AT. Like, she wasn't even really a free agent because she got cored. But I mean, the Unrivaled situation really like showed her what's possible because Connecticut's a pretty poverty franchise when it comes to their facilities and their willingness to do stuff. So for as good as they've been, they haven't really invested a lot. So it's been, I think with BG, I really do wonder though if she just sort of saw like, maybe DT is taking too long to make a decision. Like, I think if DT had committed already, I think BG might have done that 1 year contract and like leave kind of thing.
Hmm.
But I wonder if she's kind of just like, I don't know if this is going to happen. I'm going to go do my thing. And Atlanta confused me from a basketball perspective because Ryan Howard is really good and so is Alicia Howard. But they don't really give me contender vibes necessarily.
no, not quite, not quite.
I mean,
I
maybe
do think to an
now.
extent though, like this is a little bit of like it's a chance to start fresh in life in general in free agency, like not just from a
I think so
basketball
too.
perspective, but
She talked about that too.
somebody's had a tumultuous last few years. The idea to, go to a new setting, put yourself in a new context personally as well, I think is probably really appealing.
Yeah. And she
Even
is
though I'm
from the
sure,
South, so maybe she wants to go home again, like closer to home.
yeah,
She's
I
from
mean, I'm
Texas,
sure
I
the
think, right?
Texan in her would enjoy Atlanta too. But yeah, it's interesting. My whole family was shocked when the news dropped. I
Mm-hmm.
broke the news to them,
Yeah.
and everyone was really surprised. Like I think we all had assumed that she would at least stick around for another season. I mean, a little bit of background context. Brittany Griner was on the team the first time all of us went to a Mercury game together. That was kind of like the start of us becoming Mercury fans. We're kind of on the train a little bit a bunch of years ago because we'd seen that '09 Mercury Championship team. But yeah, us going to a game in person for the first time was kind of like the real beginning of us becoming lifelong Mercury fans. Griner was a big part of that. And we lived in the same town for a while. Like I've run into her like in town. You know what I mean? Like we were in the same suburb for a minute. I've just like seen her in passing, as a regular life thing. And her like not being on the Mercury just feels incredibly strange to me.
Yeah.
Obviously not upset with her for making the move. You do what you gotta
No.
do. I
Yeah.
hope she does well in Atlanta. I really do. it just feels strange. Like it'll be weird to see her in another jersey. It'll be weird to see her wearing anything other than purple. It's really odd. I'm like even like my family were all really big fans. I just bought my mom Brittany Griner's book like as a gift a little bit ago. So it's gonna be a little bit jarring to see her pop up on the Atlanta Dream, but you know, I hope
It
Atlanta does
feels
well.
to me a bit like it gives me the similar vibes as when Kyle Lowry left Toronto. Different
Mhm.
because he left in a sign and trade situation, but like he's a free agent essentially. But it gives me the same kind of vibe where it's like no one's mad about it because everybody like she gave the Mercury a lot of good years, like 11 good years, right? 11? 10, 11? A decade at
I think
least.
11 and 12, yeah.
Yeah. A full decade. Brought them a championship. Well, two, right? She won two with Phoenix? Or just one?
Yeah, too.
Two. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
You know, helped bring them two championships, was a big member of the community and did so much cool stuff like her charitable work on providing shoes and like giving shoe donations for like homeless people and whatever and like things like that, like trying to help. That's really cool stuff. Like she was such a big part of the community and did so much good for Phoenix, and she doesn't owe the Mercury anything. So I think it's easy as a fan to be like, you know what? You don't owe us anything. You know, you did everything for us and we love you. It's still going to be sad and it's still going to be jarring, like you said, because it was weird seeing Kyle Lowry on a different team. But they're just, because they emotionally just mean so much to you as a part of the franchise, right? Because you can argue that Brittany Griner, outside of Diana Taurasi, is one of the greatest Mercury to ever play, right? So it's kind of like for the team, right? So it's like that franchise legend status. And it's weird when they leave, but you get it. Or it's kind of like when Dame like finally left the Trailblazers. Like it's weird seeing him in a Bucks jersey, but like Blazers fans for the most part were like, yeah, you know what? You gave us you don't owe us anything anymore, right? And it's just kind of weird. It's just super super weird. It's not like the Candace Parker situation where like you know she was leaving LA because Derek Fisher fucked everything up basically. But it's yeah, it's still just weird when franchise legends leave, and I'm happy for her, but I just didn't expect Atlanta to be the team. I think that really just surprised me. I
I
don't know who
do
I would have expected her to go to, but Atlanta surprises me.
I do wonder to some extent how much Phoenix pursued her like for a return because if you look at the players that they picked up, you know, a big part of this is like a new organizational
Style.
commitment to a positionless basketball, right? Two-way players, more athleticism, blah blah blah. You look at Alyssa Thomas coming in, you look at Satu Sabali coming in. These are like very, very like modern ass players. You know, Sabali being they make the unicorn comparisons with her, like they do with Kristaps
Mm-hmm.
Porzingis, being able to shoot relatively high volume from three on the outside and get buckets on the inside at like 6'4". You know what I mean? Lessa Thomas being a point forward center type who gets up triple doubles and averages, you know, 7+ assists a game while being an all defense player. It's a very different direction for the team, and it's interesting that the players who moved out are a bit more like
Traditional.
these are two very multi-dimensional players, right? And the players who are moving out are a little bit like in kind of neat boxes. Tasha Cloud, this is your
Traditional type players.
traditional point guard. Sophie Cunningham is a traditional 3-and-D wing. Brittany Griner is a traditional rim protector and post up who can like shoot a little mid-range jumper. Like they kind of got away from players who fit these sort of long-standing ideals of this is what you do at this position, and they have these like multi-dimensional type of players now, and it kind of signals the direction that Mercury are trying to go in.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see how they play basketball, and I think they may well have gotten a little better as a team, frankly, but it's
Yeah.
still a little jarring to see a franchise legend leave.
We can talk about more about like the fits of these trades, I think, maybe next episode, but just like on the face of it, I am a little worried about the fit between Kalia Copper, Sabali, and AT. I think it works because they all do enough different stuff that it can work, but I do have some questions about shooting. Now, picking up Sammy Whitcomb like they just did before we started recording probably helps. But I do have
Gotta
some
have an Aussie
questions.
on the gotta have an Aussie on the Phoenix Mercury. It's tradition. If you don't
An
have at least
American
one,
Aussie in this case.
it ain't real Mercury basketball if you don't have someone with a connection to Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
Whether it's a coach or a player, you gotta have one.
Yeah. And even if it's just like she just plays for the Australian national team, but she's actually technically from the States.
They see that desert and it feels like home, man. I'm telling you, like
Yeah,
it feels like
totally.
just like down there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I just have some questions about the fit, but we can talk about that more later anyways. Cuz yeah,
Once they
we
fill
have
out more of the roster too, we can actually
I
figure out
think
because who the
exactly,
fuck
yeah.
is gonna play the
Point
starting
guard.
guard spots for them?
Like are
Will
they just going
DT
to
be
make
there?
AT the
We
point
don't
guard?
know.
Is AT just going to be the point guard? I don't know. Like
Probably functionally, yeah.
yeah,
Honestly,
no, for sure. But honestly, the fact that they got Satu Sabali for very little is impressive. They basically fleeced Dallas. Like
She can pass too. Like I saw
she's a good
5
player.
seconds a
She's
game
great.
her last full
Yeah.
season she played. Still, AT is gonna have to shoulder a very big creative load.
Yes, for sure.
Sorry, I
I
can't
mean,
stop with
Kalia,
shoulder puns.
Ka has
I
some.
can't stop.
God, nope. Until she fixes them, the shoulder jokes will continue. Just like the beatings will continue. I
Until
think
morale improves.
until morale improves. Yeah. Until her shoulders are fixed, the jokes will continue. But I feel like they got Satu for Sophie Cunningham essentially. Like they didn't give up very much to get
No,
Satu,
and
and that's the
she
wild part of
wanted
it.
out. This is
And she
how it's
did.
supposed to look
Yeah,
when you get a trade like this. It's supposed to be because the person wants out. Like
exactly.
she did not want to be
Yeah,
part of the Dallas Wings experience trademark.
anymore. And I don't
God,
really
nah.
blame him. Yeah, I don't blame her. So also involved in these trades because it worked out to just be one giant 3-team trade essentially between the Sun,
Or
Mercury,
like it's
4 actually.
nuts.
Sorry, the Sun,
Yeah.
Mercury, Fever, and Wings. So it's I'm gonna pull up the graphics so we can go through this here
The
quickly.
Wings picked up Dejounte Carrington, Tasha
Yes.
Harris, Melissa Smith, Kaya Herbert Harrington, number 12 pick, a 2026 second round pick swap, and a 2027 third round pick swap. The Mercury got Satu Sabali, Kalani Brown, Sebki Ozun, and Alyssa Thomas. It's funny, Sebki being the only player they didn't write like a little blurb about when they did the announcement. They were just like, hey, welcome to the team. Everyone else, they talked about their specific skill set. With her, they were just like, you're a Mercury now. The
Welcome.
Sun got Jason Sheldon, Rebecca Allen, who was moved twice this offseason, incredibly, and Natasha Cloud, and number 8 pick in the draft. Wait, did Beck Allen, is it
She's a
her
Sky now.
second
So
location was, yeah, she's on the Sky now.
yeah.
There we go.
So
They
because
moved
what
her
happened
immediately
was
after this trade.
when all these trades happened, they couldn't actually be finalized till yesterday.
Yeah.
The first was the first
Uh,
day that they could actually do it. So
yeah. Fever
the
got
fact that the
Jalen
Sun,
Brown, Sophie Cunningham, and the 19 pick. That rounds out the
who I
trade.
don't even know who Jalen Brown is.
Not the other Jalen Brown, it turns out. Maybe they were just
Wait,
thinking,
didn't? Oh, she was in Dallas. Actually, she was a pretty promising rookie. She kind of just came out of nowhere. I remember her now. And didn't the Mercury get Kalani Brown? Was that part of the final trade? Yeah, okay. And then some other people, I'm not totally sure who they are, which is fine. I feel bad, but it is what it is. The Fever getting Sophie Cunningham is pretty interesting. I think she fits pretty well next to Caitlin. I mean, open shooter, that always helps. Especially since they also just got DeWanna Bonner. And what other big move did they just make? They also got, why am I blanking on this? They also just got someone else who was pretty big in the middle. I'm a little bit curious about the Aaliyah Boston fit with some of these players now. But anyway, the Fever will be fascinating. But they've overpaid
they
for
will. They picked up a nice player, a little bit older.
DeWanna.
We
Yeah,
got a reunion. DeWanna Bonner
Stephanie,
reunited with
right?
their old coach. Bonner to Mercury rumors did not shake out. Like she did not reunite
Yeah, that one sort
um
of surprised me.
with her fiance.
Because they also just picked it. Well,
Actually,
yeah,
your
they
work and the
kept.
home life separate sometimes, though. Like let's be honest.
Yeah, I also do wonder to some extent how. Sorry, I'm just looking through a transaction list here. Oh,
Give me
Natasha Howard. Natasha Howard signed with the Fever too, so that one really shocked me. I was really surprised by the Natasha Howard signing. So her, DeWanna, they have her, DeWanna, and Aaliyah Boston now in the middle. They waived Grace Berger, which definitely pissed off a lot of fans. And then they traded Melissa Smith as part of all the shenanigans to get Sophie. So I'm a little curious what's happening now with Aaliyah Boston, because when you get someone like Natasha Howard, like I know
the
Aaliyah Boston's been publicly very supportive of all of this, but I'm just really curious how this works now. But yeah, anyways, DeWanna not going to the Mercury was a little bit surprising, but I also do think maybe like her and AT fit next together, but I also kind of wonder if she wanted to go play with a slightly more traditional role. Also, like she'll have a probably bigger role playing with the Fever than she would with the Mercury, because the Mercury situation reminds me slightly of when the Raptors had OG, Pascal, and Scotty, where like as much as they all have slightly different skills, they all
Yeah.
fundamentally kind of play the same roles.
What if
And
everyone is a 6'8" forward with long arms? What if the whole
yeah,
team? You know what I mean?
and that feels a bit like what the Mercury are doing, which again
Yeah.
to your point, like the positionless basketball situation. I wonder if DeWanna looked at that and was like, I am not probably going to fit as well in that situation.
Yeah.
And I do also wonder a little bit how much the Caitlin Clark thing does actually impact free agency. Like if DeWanna was like, hey, let me go play with this guard who's going to get me a shitload of easy buckets and I'm going to have a lot of space to operate.
Honestly, that could be a real pull, even though it's Indiana. I think that still might be a
Yeah. And I do think
real factor.
the coach factor also probably mattered. Like you said, it's her former coach from the Sun anyways. So That was probably part of it. Dejanay and her partner, Melissa Smith, get to play together in Dallas now, so that's fun. Both of them played at Baylor, too, so I think it's probably kind of also, it'll help the Dallas fan base
They have
probably.
the shared Baylor trauma.
Yeah, the shared Mulkey experience. TM. Wait, did they play? Dejanay played for Mulkey. Did Melissa, though?
That's a good question.
I can't remember. The timeline's like, it was around the same time that
It
Mulkey
is it
jumped
is
to...
it is still a Christian university, so there's a decent chance there might be some trauma.
Still some trauma. Although their coach, who left Atlanta to go coach there, has been much more progressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Sun are super fascinating to me because, like we talked about in our last episode, you don't hire the national team of a coach who is a winner just to like rebuild the team, but that's what they're doing apparently. So that's confusing. I do wonder how much of this came out of the fact that like with the Sun, this is my like theory. We'll see if this is truly the case, and we'll probably never find out. But my theory is they court Alyssa Thomas with the purposes of renegotiating her contract, and since she really is like the engine of that team, I suspect that when Alyssa Thomas was like, actually, I don't want to be here. Like, I'll play out my year, but then I'll be a free agent. Like, you can't really core me twice because I don't think you can core a player twice. It's not like the NFL where you can kind of keep franchise tagging them. I think the WNBA has rules around that, but anyway. They're not going to keep coring Alyssa Thomas forever anyway. So Alyssa's like, look, I'll play this year out, but I'm not staying. So I wonder if they were like, okay, fine. She pushed for a trade a little bit because she saw what other teams can offer in terms of facilities and was like, I want that. So I wonder if a lot of Connecticut's plan hinged around Alyssa Thomas, and so therefore her wanting to go was like, okay, cool, let's trade you, and then there's not really a need for Dejanay Carrington as much. I mean, she's still a very good player, but you can at least, the assets you can get for her are probably more useful at that point, because Dejanay is now kind of at this point where she's really just, she's not someone you're going to build around necessarily, but she's going to fit really nicely with a lot of good players, right? So then you get a player like JC Sheldon, who I think you have a chance to maybe build around a bit more, because she's a point guard. It's like a bit more of a premium position, maybe, than what Dejanay is doing. And then DeWan is obviously already a free agent, and I'm sure her decision was definitely very much hinging on what happened with Alyssa Thomas. And then Brianna Jones leaving, too. She also signed with the Dream. So the Dream have a lot of bigs now, which is interesting.
The Sun have lost all 5 starters.
Yeah. So I wonder if
Never seen no shit like that in my life. That
neither.
is crazy.
I truly do believe, though, that they weren't going into the offseason intending to do any of that. I don't think they hired the coach they hired with the intention of blowing up the entire roster.
I don't think as a small market team, and when I say small market with the Connecticut Sun, I mean they play in a town of like 20,000 people.
Yeah.
I don't think you go in with the thinking like, man, let's do a long rebuild. Like that's not really
Well,
typically
and I don't think you
how you can
know.
operate there.
And you don't hire a coach like they did with that intention. So it's just a bit.
No.
I really think the Alyssa Thomas thing was like a surprise because I didn't expect her to want to trade necessarily. Like I knew she might not want to stay, but I was curious what was going on there. And then I think she really was like the first once that domino fell, the rest of it became a lot more clear. It's like, okay, cool, let's just redo the whole roster. New coach, new roster, new everything. That's kind of my only theory about what happened. I don't know. Weird.
So it'll look real different out there.
Yeah.
Real
I
different.
don't think I've ever seen a WNBA free agency with this much movement. The other thing that's been fascinating is how many one-year contracts have been signed because there's a new CBA coming and there's going to be a huge salary jump.
That money's going to be a lot better. I'm really curious to
Also
see
expansion.
how much it'll blow up.
Same. Also expansion, I think, matters
Toronto
too.
going to be around next offseason.
Yeah.
You know, maybe some players are really itching to go to Canada.
I don't know if it's that necessarily or just that
I'm
there's
fucking
going to
with you.
be. I know. But I do think there's some of that, though. There's probably players who are like, well, it's not going to be the stars, but I think there's a lot of players who are like that next tier of like, they could be stars in a different situation who might be like waiting for that expansion opportunity because it's like, okay, now there's more teams, there's more opportunity to be a star, right? Because there's fewer stars to go around.
Yep. Yeah, me and my parents were talking about the upcoming draft because you know we support Kansas State. We all lived in Manhattan, Kansas for a while. I went to the school, and we were talking about Ioka Lee and Serena Sundell, and we're like, and my mom asked like, "Hey, do you think they're gonna get drafted?" And I was like, "Well, Lee has the talent, obviously, and we know that with the injury issues, they could affect her draft status, but I'm confident she'll get drafted. And same with Serena
And she's
Sundell. I'm
also
sure
a
that
little bit
like
of a tweener,
she's
right?
really good. Yeah, well, Lee's like a center-ass center. Like
Yeah.
Sundell is like kind of a 1-2, like good playmaker.
The thing with Lee
I'm
though is
sure
that
she'll get drafted
players,
in like somewhere, but like what I was saying to them was like with expansion coming, there's going to be more opportunities for players to play, and I think that boosts Sundel's odds of like getting onto a team and
yeah,
getting in a rotation and getting chances to play,
there
and
will
I
just
think
be
that's going
more
to be good
roster
for
spots
players.
available. Period.
Yeah,
Like
it's
it
good
seemed
for
like the
players.
Valkyries right now even could take a shot on her because they really have nobody else. They have Kate Martin currently who's going to play, and then the rest of their roster is a bit of a question mark. So I'm curious. It's weird that they haven't done more in free agency yet. I'm a little unsure of what the hell is happening with the
Yeah,
Valkyries
if
because
but
I expected them to
if
spend
you're a
hard.
third round pick, you're thinking now, hey, I might be able to really play,
Make
and I'm not just there
yeah,
to like be there for training camp and get cut because they only have 11 spots and there's only 12 teams. Like
yeah,
that could change really soon.
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, it's really it's been an interesting free agency so far, and more will definitely come as we keep now that the free agency is truly like officially open as well because it was just kind of like a moratorium period before. So now people can actually sign, and now that the big dominoes have fallen, I think more movement will happen.
Still don't
Now
know
that
what's
you
happening
kind
with
of
Deladon. We don't know what's happening with a couple other key players. It's
yeah. What other key free agents are we looking at right now that still haven't signed?
I gotta find a list that has like everyone marked off who actually already has signed.
Yeah. Well, Tina Charles went to. Oh, hey, Maisha Hines Allen left the Lynx. The Lynx re-signed Natisha Heidemann though, so that was huge for them. They really needed her back because she was really good for them last year. Tina Charles went back to the Sun. Ty Harris, in a funny turn of events, is back in Dallas. I feel bad for her. Do you think Natasha Cloud will stay in Connecticut, or do you think she's going to get retraded?
I mean, I don't even know. I haven't even really seen anything from her since the trade. Like I don't know if she seems like she wants to be there.
I think she's processing the news currently still.
Probably. Probably. I would be too.
Yeah, Shatori Walker Kimbrough also went to the Dream. That was kind of nice, like low key, very small. She's not like an incredibly big name player, but a helpful one. Zia Cook got cut from the Sparks. Grace Berger got cut from the Fever. I think Berger and Zia Cook are both players that if I was like the Valkyries, I would take flyers on. I think the Valkyrie, my theory about what's happening right now with the Valkyrie is they are not intending to be very good this year, and because they want to go into the draft like next year again with better. What's their? Do you know where they're drafting in the draft?
Fifth, I think, or third, either third or fifth.
Chicago has the third pick, so
I think fifth. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see. Like, there's some players who are still available. Not a ton of. A lot of the big names have already gone
Valkyrie picked
somewhere.
fifth. So the draft order right now is Dallas, Seattle, Chicago, Washington, Golden State, Washington again, the Liberty at 7, Wings at 8, Sparks at 9, Sky again at 10, Lynx at 11, and Connecticut at 12.
That's what
The
what's gonna
12th,
happen
I think the
with
12th pick
Candy
just got
Carter.
traded. Yeah, she's an interesting domino. I also could see the Mercury, or sorry, not the Mercury, the Valkyries taking a flyer on her. They need, their roster is weird, so they need somebody.
I'm petitioning the Mercury to sign Sydney Colson.
The Mercury could use some player like Sydney Colson. Kennedy Carter is such a fascinating player because she's so talented, but she's had really rough experiences everywhere she's been. And Teaspoon was a coach who managed to kind of unlock her, but she seems like a very mercurial kind of player, and so I'm curious what's going to happen with that. But any other final free agency thoughts here quickly before we? The Chicago re-signed Michaela Onyenwere, and then obviously Vandersloot, and then Kia Nurse is coming to Chicago this year, which I think is kind of a fun low-key move. I'm
Sloot's
not
back.
expecting Sloot
Sloot's
back.
back.
Sloot's back, which indicates to me she's probably going to retire after this year.
Yep.
But I think that she's the perfect kind of veteran point guard to put around two young bigs like Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. And I think that having a player like Kia Nurse, same thing. Like, he is a solid veteran who plays defense. She can shoot from the outside. She's not going to be the star that people thought she might be. I think that injury kind of ended that for her. She hasn't been the same since then, but she's a very solid veteran player to put around. Yeah.
It's been a lot to digest the last few days.
Oof, yeah, my brain's kind of
Just the last
spinning.
few
I
days.
feel like we're forgetting things because it's just like so much has happened. But obviously, we'll be back with another episode next week because thanks to this emergency episode, we're now going to be a weekly podcast again briefly.
It's been nuts, man. Like a few days ago, my biggest basketball concern was like, man, how much is Karl Anthony Towns' thumb bothering him? And now all this shit is happening, and my brain is being occupied by all this other stuff. Like,
Yeah, it's funny because I care even less about NBA All Star than I thought I could ever care about because this is all fucking happening right now. Super didn't pay attention. Can't say I care.
yeah. Yeah,
This is
none
way
of the
more
Knicks made it.
interesting.
That's all I
Yeah.
remember. Josh Hart, not an all-star. That's a damn shame.
Not surprising, but still shameful.
No, yeah, exactly. If it was 15, then yeah. But
Yeah.
12, I get it. I get it.
My only all-star thought is that if Scotty Barnes hadn't been as injured as he's been, he would have made it over Evan Mobley. But beside from that, I don't.
I don't know, man. Cavs won a lot of basketball games. I feel like,
I think Scotty would have had a chance as a reserve if he had not just
yeah,
been injured because he'd been playing so well. But aside from that, I don't really have thoughts on all-star.
crazy weekend. Crazy
But
weekend.
yeah,
There's probably still
any
more movement to come. Like, there might be some players who get traded a second time. There's already been players have been traded twice. That's with Beck Allen.
yeah, happy she's a Sky though. I love Becca Allen.
Yeah, shout out to hope y'all enjoy her.
Yeah, she'll be really good. And the craziest part is that this is all going to happen again next year because almost all of these contracts are 1-year deals. So
But yeah,
fascinating.
do you have a bottle of something over there, right? Before
I
we
do.
wrap
Yeah,
up.
I guess we should talk about the wine we're drinking. We didn't really coordinate because emergency podcast, so we did not pick a particular wine pairings.
Yeah, this is a wine that I had got for the last episode because I couldn't find the bottle we were originally going to get. This is popcorn from Napa. It's a cabernet sauvignon. It is. I'm gonna be honest with you. I bought it because I saw a big old thing that said 92 points on it, and I was like, well, somebody reviewed it and thought it was good. And you know what? It is damn good. I really enjoy it. I'm not a huge Cabernet guy, but this is some really good shit. And popcorn felt appropriate because like it really feels like we're just like spectators, like, oh my God, like what is going on
Yeah.
the screen right now?
What about cabs or like, so what's your preference over a cab then? More like you, because you're definitely more of an Italian guy, so you're like a big Sangiovese guy because obviously Brunello's your thing.
I get a lot of like Sangiovese wines. It's not necessarily that I even dislike cabs. I just never particularly buy them because it tends to be that like a lot of the good ones feel like they're a little bit on the pricier side.
True.
And I feel like I can get like a nice like Super Tuscan for a little bit less, and I
Absolutely. You
get
can get,
some
well,
of
and
the
you can get a
same like
Chianti
flavor
for like way
profiles.
less. You can
Oh
get a
yeah,
good Chianti or a good like, well, Brunello no, but like if you want the Sangiovese base, like you're gonna get a Chianti probably, and you can get a Chianti Classico for like a good Chianti Classico for like the same price or a lot less than a good cab in lots of cases.
yeah. You can get a really good Chianti for like $12, like no joke.
I guess for the purposes of the fact that our two countries are in a trade war, we're probably going to not be drinking any American wine for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I
Since
might
you
have
won't
to
be able
buy
to buy
one
it.
tomorrow since I might not have access. Not that I typically buy American wines. I mean, they're great, obviously. I used to live in a really nice wine region when I was in Monterey. But
Mm,
yeah,
good stuff, Monterey.
might well get a couple bottles before they pull everything from the shelves.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Honestly, my beef with American wineries lately is they're just cutting a lot of corners and using a
Sounds
lot of
like
bullshit.
what American companies tend to be known
Yeah.
for.
Anyways, the wine I chose was just a crowd pleaser. I went with the good old Kim Crawford Sauvignon Blanc, so from New Zealand, Marlborough. A classic, the world's most popular New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. Unfortunately, I did not win the trip to New Zealand. Boo. But still drinking the Kimmy C, my
I
boy.
see Kim Crawford wine, my mind thinks like we need to have a Kim Walsh wine. We need
No,
it.
we
We
don't.
need it.
We don't. The bottle would
It's
be
gonna be
super fun. I'd like to design the label
the
for a Kim
most
Mulkey
buttery
wine.
Chardonnay possible.
No. Yeah, actually, it would be because she's an old woman, so that tracks. Well, you just gave me a good creative idea, so we're gonna come back to this. I'll message you offline. I have a great idea now for some content. So stay tuned. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok.
That is
Yeah, I
at Wine
guess.
and Dime Pod.
Yeah. Every Friday you'll see a little
I didn't point
video
any
about some.
specific, but
Yeah. Every Friday we're gonna post a video or something about some weekend wine pairings for games that are coming up. So for today's Sunday game, we've got a Syrah from Italy for the Bulls Pistons game because Isaiah Stewart's a little punchy and so are Syrahs, so it's perfect. Well, beef stew. He's not playing, but that's beside the point. It embodies the Pistons. They like to hit hard. They're pretty physical. But yeah, the Kim Crawford, pretty nice. It's classic Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, so tons of citrus, lots of acidity. It's very refreshing. Nice on a sunny day here in Calgary. What's the popcorn like? Is it super tannic, or is it kind of what's it like as a cab? Compared to say
got
the
a little bit of
Cannonball we just
tannins, but
drank, is it
not
kind of
that
like
much.
is it kind of balanced like the Cannonball we just had for our last
I would say
episode?
it's pretty balanced. Yeah.
Yeah. Little is it
So
jammy
maybe
or
it's
just like
probably more full bodied than like the Cannonball, I think.
less jammy, just more balanced, full body kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little
It's
drier.
very much in my wheelhouse.
A little bit more on the Chris Paul spectrum.
Yeah, it's like a Natasha Cloud level pure point guard, but not necessarily quite in the Chris Paul
Yeah.
realm
Okay.
of being demanding.
I got you. I got you.
Yeah.
All right. I like how Chris Paul is the standard for like most tannic cab. It's like he's the 10. He's on the scale, the
Yeah, that
sliding
is the
scale.
driest one possible. Yeah.
Yeah. the Chris Paul, Kyle Lowry tier, and then shit. All right. Well, yeah. Thanks for listening to this fun emergency episode as we've joined the emergency economy, and we'll see you again.
Yeah, good luck on the. I was gonna say good luck on the trade war. I'm not gonna be that stupid. It's
Well, we're
so
all gonna
bad,
suffer.
man.
We're
It's
all gonna
so
suffer at
bad.
the end of the
It's
day.
gonna suck so much.
Americans are about to learn
Everything is
just how much
stupid.
of the good shit comes from Canada. Oh,
Everything's
all of our
stupid.
vehicles are produced here. Cool. That's fun.
I hope you're not into avocados because wait till you find out where a lot of those come from, buddy.
Well, the worst part is that every Canadian knows what we
Oh,
get
that
from
was from Mexico.
America.
That was not for
Oh,
Canada. But
Mexico,
yeah,
sorry.
like yeah,
But even
yeah,
then, for Canada, we're like,
yeah,
oh, we know how bad this is going to be. I'm excited to see all of the Americans who are suddenly like, why are cars so much more expensive? Because
yeah.
they're built here. And there's actually been a ton of Canadian and Mexican companies who've like already rejected orders from American companies for things. So it's going to be really fascinating. Unfortunately for me, a large chunk of my skincare routine comes from the United States, so I'm going to need to figure that out.
This is
Selfishly.
this is gonna suck.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Also,
Having a good old
yeah.
time. Having a good old time.
I also happen to sell a lot of American wine, so that's cool. Alberta doesn't so far have plans to pull wine from shelves, though, and I doubt that'll ever happen because Danielle Smith is too
Yeah,
far
no, I
up
think they're
Trump's
a little more
ass.
friendly to U.S. interests in Alberta than they are
Well,
in
it
other
depends,
parts of
though.
the country.
So, like, I'm curious to see on the consumer side. From a government perspective, yes, but the consumer
Hmm.
side will be fascinating because I think while there are lots of very Trumpy people in my neck of the woods, I think at the end of the day, they're also pretty prone to, like, protectionism, and I think that a lot
Hmm.
of people are kind of like, so I'm curious to see from a consumer standpoint if they're the ones who just choose the boycott rather than the Alberta government. Well, it's an entirely privatized market here also, so it's up to the stores themselves. And I doubt that Loblaws is going to be like, screw American wine. Galen Weston wants his money.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun situation, and by fun I mean it's gonna fucking
Awful.
suck.
Yeah, it's going to suck.
Yeah,
It's going to be
it's gonna
terrible.
be really bad for the entire North American continent. Which,
Yeah.
yep, love
Everything's
it.
fine. Everything is
Yep.
fine. So,
And Brittany Griner's no longer on the Mercury. God damn it, it's
God damn
crazy.
it. But
It's
at least
crazy.
my Vandersloot Sky jersey is back to be
There we go. It's relevant again. It's relevant. It's
small
not a
victories.
throwback anymore. It's not a
It is
throwback
not
anymore. It's
small
current.
victories. Small
Yeah.
victories. All right. Well, yeah. Have fun processing the Luka news, everyone. And
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
be back in a week.
Yep. We'll see if the Lakers have a center by then.
They may.
All right. Later. Follow us on